position by position, AL and NL, and now we've got the official list across all of the baseball of who the top 3 Gold Glove finalists are for each position. So for the Phillies, they've got 4 representing on this list. Zack Wheeler, who could and should be Cy Young, Zack Wheeler, is on the list for pitchers, along with Chris Sale and Luis Severino.
So my question here is, Zack Wheeler's not even the best fielding pitcher on his own team. Is this like a, hey, we know you're not getting the Cy Young award, so let's throw you. Look, Zack Wheeler's a very good defensive fielder, pitcher, but like Ranger Suarez and probably Christopher Sanchez, in my mind at least, are better. Does anybody else have that same feeling?
And I actually
Ranger's
felt
like a magician out there. And
Yeah,
Sanchez
I felt like they're throwing him
good.
a bone. I mean, it also is looking at the whole package, I guess. And they did say, you've got Sale and Wheeler, who are both top finishers in NL Cy Young Award voting, finalists for Gold Gloves, and you've got Wheeler with 3 defensive runs saved as a fielder. Luis Severino was tied for 3rd among all pitchers.
Yeah, he's pretty
with
good.
5. And then you have on the other side Chris Sale, who was tied for 6th with 4 defensive runs saved. I agree with you, but I guess it was more bigger picture. He did also have a Cy Young worthy season.
Yeah, he's a great fielder. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but when I think of best fielding Phillies starting pitcher, I don't think of Zack Wheeler. So it's funny to see the league recognize him for that.
You guys also have to keep in mind the fact that Ranger didn't probably pitch enough.
He probably wasn't qualified.
Sanchez is one that I'm surprised at, but I will say this: Zack Wheeler finished 4th in the league in putouts this year. He was 1st in the National League with 21. The only 3 pitchers that had more were Logan Gilbert, Nate Eovaldi, and Tanner Houck, all American League pitchers. He had 17 assists. He had a perfect fielding percentage. He's been a good defender on the mound. I wouldn't disagree to tell you that I think Ranger and Christopher Sanchez are better defenders. But across the innings, the scope of the 200 innings that he pitched, it's 21 putouts is a lot of putouts. I don't know if he wins this award. I think there's a case to be made for all 3 of these guys because Chris Sale has a very few amount of putouts. I think he only has 9, but he also has 22 assists. Luis Severino also only has 9, but he has 30 assists.
Right.
It's actually a pretty tight race for the Gold Glove from the pitcher spot, which is kind of surprising. But all 3 kind of have merit this year.
Yeah, definitely. I know in the chat, Ben Ace is bringing up, Ranger not being included, but then was like, oh yeah, I forgot Ranger was out so much. He did miss significant amounts of time with his IL stint. So definitely think that was a reason why he's not on that list and included. But as you mentioned, like a Christopher Sanchez does have merit to being included with the season that he had. Outside of Zack Wheeler, the next one that we had on the list was Bryce Harper.
Deserved.
And very deserving. I predicted Bryce Harper to be one of the first basemen across Major League Baseball this season. I had high expectations for him, and I felt like given his how we saw him step into first base last year, a full season at first base was going to be great. And for Harper this season, in his first full season as a full-time first baseman, was 2nd with +8 OAA. And when you look at the outs above average for the rest of the guys on the list of Christian Walker and Matt Olson, you had Olson, who led with 14 defensive runs saved, which was 6 more than any other first baseman. And then you also have Walker, who led with +13 outs above average. So Bryce Harper sitting there +8. At least gets nominated for his first full season as first baseman.
Yeah, I think that's Christian Walker's a freak defensively at first base, so it's probably going to be his award to lose for a long time. But the fact that Bryce Harper is there is pretty cool.
I'll take it.
Yeah, for a guy's first full season of playing the position, yeah, you'll take that. It just proves what a ball player he is. Comes up as a catcher, plays. I think he played some center briefly when he was young in Washington, then played right field. Now at first, will DH. He's just a ball player.
What can't Bryce Harper do in terms of positions?
Carry a team single-handedly.
I was going to say, in terms of positions, because as I was saying, I was like,
people are going to be like, I hate these guys. They're making fun of Bryce.
I hate Renee. How dare she? Did she watch this season? Bryce Harper sucked for the majority of the end of the season. I know. I get it, guys. We're still tortured. What position can't Bryce Harper play? There we go. Let me say that instead.
Shortstop. Yeah, I wouldn't put him.
Think so?
Yeah, I wouldn't put him there.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't be very good. His range would be.
You think that he's
weak? I just don't think he's quick enough.
I think that's probably like the only position. Yeah, I think his lateral. You think his lateral movement? He's a little more lumbering.
You could throw him at second. It would probably not be good.
I think third base he'd be second. Third base, I think he'd be fine.
This is where we are, guys.
I mean, well below
hypothetically
league average.
speaking, where would you put Bryce Harper? 610.
He would be well below. He'd be like the Trey Turner of third baseman and second baseman. I assume we're getting to Trey Turner, shortstop, Gold Glove nomination.
Trey Turner, who was one of the worst.
He made the finals, right?
You know, I think there could be something to be said about what's the opposite of gold? For Trey Turner, who was one of the worst across the league last year in errors with 23, and then had 17 this year with like 35 less games played. Yeah, not a Gold Glove finalist, but you know who is a Gold Glove finalist to his left? Bryson Stott.
Yeah. So I think he's kind of proven that he'll be there in these finalists for many years to come. He's an elite second baseman. And everybody that says move him to short, he's not as good of a shortstop as he is a second baseman. He's phenomenal at short. Yeah, or right, second, excuse me. You know, and there was a player too you saw in the postseason that kind of bailed him out and saved him. So yeah, Bryson Stott's an excellent second baseman. Good to see him in it again.
Well, Bryson Stott did finish fourth amongst all second basemen in the NL with 7 defensive runs saved behind 2 guys that were also nominated. So Ketel Marte from the Diamondbacks and then Bryce Terang from the Brewers. Terang actually had 21 defensive runs saved, which is the most by any second baseman in his just second MLB season. Marte had his best defensive season according to StatCast. He was +8 in outs above average. And then Stott was right there in the mix. So we talked about him as a Gold Glove.
Terang's got it.
Yeah, we talked about him as a Gold Glove.
Is this where I mentioned that Terang was on my fantasy team this year?
Wow, where's his counter?
Yeah, do I mention that now? Tyler, is that when I do that?
No, you get a couple before you get a marker.
Okay. Bryce Terang was on La Fama Blanca this year, so big year for him.
He's still talking about his fantasy team.
Well, I mean, Gold Glove finalist, member of La Fama Blanca. You know, it's a big year.
Okay, well, Bryce Harper was on my team, and he's a Gold Glove finalist as well. So
yeah, well, I had Andres Jimenez, and he's going to win the Platinum Glove. Is that how you guys want to play this game? My team stunk, but I win this stupid hypothetical award.
Actually, I'm going to count how many of my guys were on the Gold. If we're going to go there, I'm going to go all the way there.
We're not actually going there.
No, I'm going to do it while you're talking. I'm going to do it while you're talking. We've got time. We've got 6 months.
I've got nothing else to say.
I'm counting. All right, well, let's get into one of the surprises because, and for the record, you brought it up, and I'm just going to have to carry off of this. But one of the surprises that we did get for the 4th Gold Glove Award finalist from the Phillies, Brandon Marsh.
Yeah,
I feel like
this
I
one
could do a
surprises
good
me. So I meant to dive into the numbers a little bit more before the show, and I forgot. And as soon as the show started, I texted the NRD. I sent a fax to the Nerd Research Department back there to pull them up.
A fax? We haven't gotten it yet. Then because it's gonna be like 9 days from now. Why don't you send it by carrier pigeon next time?
I'll send a beeper out.
Nah, yeah,
hit your pager
out.
We're
good. I'm really going back.
But I'm curious because I hadn't looked it up yet where he actually ranks defensively amongst the left fielders.
So for this group, for
left
Brandon Marsh,
he's
with Lord Gurriel Jr. for the Diamondbacks, Ian Happ. Now, Ian Happ, we've obviously seen him win a Gold Glove before the past 2 seasons. That is looking to make it number 3. He did have 8 defensive runs saved, which led all left fielders, and had 11 outfield assists, which was tied for the most in the NL.
And Happ's like a mainstay there.
Yeah, for sure. And then Gurriel had +3 outs above average, which led NL left fielders. And then Marsh is just right there in the mix with his 7 defensive runs saved, which is right behind Happ. So again, Happ had 8. He had 7. He actually was a lot closer than you may have realized.
A little better than I realized. Yeah. You know,
Brandon Marsh.
I think Brandon Marsh, much like the stock conversation, much better left fielder than he is center fielder.
Yes.
Maybe because of the offensive woes, I kind of like blocked out a little bit how solid of a left fielder he is. So maybe that's on me. What did the NRD find?
Well, I think that's the conversation needs to be had that he's a much better defensive left fielder than he is a defensive center fielder.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a fine defensive left fielder. He's a very good a fine defensive center fielder. He's a very good defensive left fielder. In terms of like fielding run value across the course of the season, he finished 20th among left fielders 20th amongst left fielders in terms of innings played in left field. He finished with a 2 fielding run value. If you want to talk about like range factor, it was a -1, which means he's basically right about average. Ian Happ to comp, his fielding run value was a -1. throughout the year. He played much more innings, about 400 plus more innings than Brandon Marsh did in that capacity. Also trying to just get you some of the quick numbers on the defensive runs saved. Hap was like almost an 8, I believe he was. Led all outfielders or all left fielders, excuse me. The numbers are good for Marsh. I don't think he's going to
he's not
win a gold. I'll be quite frank. I don't think any of these guys are going to end up winning their gold glove.
I was going to ask you guys, who's the most likely of these 4 to win it?
Wheeler.
I don't think any of them are.
Zack Wheeler is probably the closest one.
Wheeler's probably the most likely.
Yes. The real, like, when you look across the board, they're all in that like number 2 spot, but it's a very far gap between number 1 and number 2. So I do think it's Zack Wheeler that has the best chance statistically of being a Gold Glove Award winner. But
so I actually think Marsh is in the 3 spot. I think he's going to finish last of the 3 finalists.
That's fair.
Because actually his defensive metrics were not as good as they were last year. I thought he had a much better case last year when Nico Horner won the award than when he won the award, or when one of these 2 guys are going to win the award. I think it's going to be Turang by a lot, and then it'll be Marte second and Stott third.